And welcome to the two representatives of Pratt Industries, Mr. Robert Decker and Kurt Schmitz. So we really don't have any other business other than the Pratt discussion. So unless you all have anything to chat about, I'm going to bring these two gentlemen up and we will rehash some of the discussion, and we will ask them to present. And Robert, and Kurt, you tell us how you want to handle questions and comments. If you want us to kind of just ask as you go, or if you want to hold everything to the end. I don't think you have really a PowerPoint or anything to show, right?
We don't.
Perfect. That's perfect. All right. So for the record, if you don't mind, go ahead and state your names into the microphone. And again, this is always going to be a little weird as a speaker, but don't feel bad about keeping your back to us. We can see you. So just address all those millions of people that are at home watching you right now. All right. So Kurt, go ahead and take it away.
Kurt Schmitz, I'm with Pratt Recycling. Thanks for having us back. We appreciate it, and we'll try to answer as many questions as you can come up with, and we'll keep going down the path.
All right, Robert Decker with Pratt Recycling, and as Kurt said, glad to be back, and we'll do our best to answer questions. All right.
Robert, I know, Kurt, you're the division president, right? Of
Vice President.
Vice President?
Yeah.
Okay. And Robert, what is your function? Refresh our memory.
The Southern Region Operations Manager.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And now, are you both out of Conyers? Or, I know your facility's in Conyers, right?
One of them.
The closest one for...
Well, actually, Robert started...
Go ahead and speak in the microphone. Otherwise, TV won't pick it up.
Okay. Robert started driving a truck for the Nashville plant. So, and then he was the general manager of the plant in Nashville, and then now he's over all of the recycling plants in the South. So everything from Fayetteville, North Carolina to Denton, Texas.
So I'm still based down in Nashville.
Still lives in Nashville.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, fantastic. So give us an overview of what you envision a partnership with Rutherford County and where you think you would be the best fit in this large plan that we have. And
obviously we're focused on the recycling portion of your solid waste plan, and we think this is a large growth area, and so we feel that it's important and a strategic place for us to be. And so however we can partner with the county to achieve that goal and get a facility in Rutherford County, that's what we're trying to figure out, is how to best do that and partner and just figure out how to get there.
And you are primarily interested in cardboard, right? And paper products?
That's what we use as a feedstock to make the paper that we make our boxes out of, yes. But we run single stream MRFs all over the South. And so it's a conduit for us to get paper out of the residential single stream, but along with that, there are other commodities that we market, and we have a really large brokerage group that markets all of that. A lot of those products go to customers that we have that we sell boxes to. So I'll use Mohawk as an example. We sell them boxes. We also sell them our PET bottles from our MRFs to make carpet. So we're very integrated in the market in all commodities. So,
and is Pratt's main business, main moneymaker, you're in the corrugated box industry? right?
Yes.
And so this is a way to capture material to then convert to successfully keep a low, overhead's not the right word, but to recycle material so it helps you in the marketplace to be competitive, because you'll be able to use a large percentage of recycled material to create corrugated box product, sheets or whatever they call it.
Yes, we use 100% recycled. None of our paper mills are virgin. We don't use any trees, so we rely on the waste paper, if you call it that, to make our new product, our new boxes. So, we're unique in that all of our paper mills are 100% recycled. In fact, we just announced a brand new mill in Henderson, Kentucky, that'll come in about 24 months. Brand new greenfield, brand new mill.
You say where in Kentucky?
Henderson.
Henderson, Kentucky. Okay. All right.
$400 million investment.
Wow, okay.
It'll be our sixth mill.
Okay, all right. And you operate, what, 4 or 5 MRFs, as I recall, across?
We have 5, yeah.
Okay. So,
Now we have 14 recycling facilities. 5 of them are residential single stream. The rest of them are just baling facilities where we bring in like commercial OCC and commercial scrap, and we just bale it up.
okay. So Kurt, tell us, or both of you, Robert, I'm leaving you out. Tell us about your, in a perfect world, what the vision for Rutherford County would be, and what you would need land-wise, what a facility would look like, or is there just a sorting facility and you truck it, train it to Conyers? What does it look like?
So the thought process and the vision that we have is to partner with Rutherford County to figure out, I know there's some potentially available land, and we'd build the building big enough to grow with you and your municipal partners. So as it grew, we would have the building already sized for a big facility. We wouldn't have to put in all the equipment to do all the sorting on site to begin with, because the volume right now doesn't really justify that. So we would put in kind of a pre-process structure to sort out the OCC out of any single stream that we have, take any fines and glass and remove that, and then take everything else down to Conyers to process it until we grew the business big enough to have the sorting done here. Does that make sense? Kind of grow with you as you grow.
So you would want the material that we currently separate at our convenience centers?
Yes.
We cardboard and
Yes,
things like that?
and that's all of it's source separated, correct? Yeah. So we would bring that in and bale it up and market it.
Okay. Do you also envision like a curbside pickup where we would separate recyclables or cardboard and some avenue of transportation to go to that facility as well, or how does that work?
So we probably won't get into the residential curbside collection piece. That's really not our forte.
All right.
It's processing. But as, those other companies, whoever it is, whether it's a small independent, I think did some in the city of Murfreesboro for a little while. I don't know if they're still doing it. It would benefit those companies to have a place to drop it instead of taking it all the way into Nashville.
Okay. All right. I don't know how much cardboard Rutherford County generates? Or, Matt, go ahead.
I figured that question would come up. 2000 calendar year 2020, 2,591 tons of cardboard.
Say that number one more time.
2,591 tons of cardboard.
Yeah.
About
That
200
was at our
tons a month.
convenience centers?
Yes.
But let's, Mr. Chairman, can we take that a little further?
Yeah.
That's just it for Rutherford County. So if we were to come together with all 4 cities, which the mayors have told me in our meeting that they're on board, all 4 cities, they would start bringing their recycling products to us, as well as, does that include any commercial? No. So, Kurt, what we're looking at is there's some talk of pushback against, Metro and all the other counties bringing their trash here. So, if we were to partner with you on a piece of property that would have the access to possibility of a railroad spur, and we were just to look at Rutherford County and everything that, from commercial to all the cities, you feel like that would be enough to get started with a MRF to grow into?
Yes, I think so. I don't have the numbers, and I'm not sure how to get them, but I'm sure that there's front-end loader OCC containers sitting out in Murfreesboro and Rutherford County.
Sure.
That's being collected and taken either to Greif or to Waste Management in Nashville, or to us in Nashville.
Yes, sir. So what I remember from your last presentation is not just cardboard. No. You would like to have all of our plastic bottles. I mean, I remember the scenario of a plastic peanut butter container.
Right.
And that going into one of our convenience centers, contaminating the whole load, and makes the driver take the whole thing to the landfill. That would not be the case, because you would take it, I believe you stated that you would take it to Conyers, you wash it, grind it, and you have an end product for all that plastic resin in carpet mills.
Right, right. We don't do the washing and everything in Conyers, but we separate it out of that stream, and if it has residue in it, then it goes to, I'll just use Mohawk again as an example. They have the washing and the pelletizing, and
Gotcha.
then they extrude it out into fiber to make the yarn for the carpet.
I was talking to executive director of the Tennessee Wildlife Federation today, and they're starting a campaign about Tennessee Clean, and he was sharing with me that Eastman up in Tri-Cities and Kingsport, because of COVID, there is a lot of the natural resources that even make plastic has been depleted. So that's why we're beginning to see an uptick in what, recyclables had bottomed out. China markets dried up, but now a lot of those companies are starting to pay more just to get those. So I forgot what he told me, the millions of pelletized or chips, I guess, of the plastic resin that Eastman and East Tennessee is planning on using. It's in the millions of tons over the next couple of years. So there's opportunities there for these recyclable products.
Right. A lot of the consumer products companies, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Eastman, they're all, for their sustainability, they're all committing to using more post-consumer recycled content in their products. So it's creating a demand. Also, the higher that oil goes, the more expensive the virgin resin is. So it makes it more competitive for the recycled resin and it kind of pulls it up with it, so.
So I guess it's the virgin resin that has been depleted, and that's what's causing the price to go up. Okay. Could you use a railroad spur? Do you have a place?
Yes, we could. So with Henderson, it's going to be the biggest mill in our system. We need to have supply there. So
how far away is that?
2.5 hours. It's right on the other side.
Evansville, Indiana. It's right over the river.
Yeah, that sounds right. Henderson.
Could be, yeah. Yeah. So we're going to need supply, whether the material goes down to Conyers or it goes to Henderson or it goes to Wapakoneta, Ohio, or
wherever you go.
Rail is
much cheaper.
Is a big benefit to us. Just to have the option, when trucks get tight and you can't get them.
Diesel goes up.
Diesel goes up, gets more expensive. We want to have as many options as we can for movement.
And at what point do you think, what kind of tonnage do you think it would take for you to come in and build that MRF? And then we start splitting the revenue after transportation.
I would say probably a couple thousand tons a month of residential single stream. 14 to 2,000, somewhere in there. Starts making sense to process on site.
Time out, excuse me.
Jump in.
I got to jump because on that one, you said single stream MSW.
Stream recycling, curbside, single stream, so it's commingled paper containers.
Understood.
Yeah.
I thought I heard MSW and I was going to jump on that one.
No, it's not MSW. We don't deal with MSW. No.
The rest of that stuff goes to the landfill, right?
Right.
Jump in, anybody?
I'll stay on my train of thought, if gentlemen, if you don't mind. Robert, did you need to go? If you had is there any probability, any concept of MSW, a transfer station with a MRF that could receive MSW and call out your product and have an outflow to the landfill? If that's not even in your realm of concepts, then I'll stop and we'll go to Robert.
Possible. I wouldn't rule it out. In Conyers, Georgia, that's exactly what we have. But it's the only place that we do it, and it was very strategic to, Conyers is our North American headquarters, so it's kind of important for us to be in that space in Conyers. Would we do it here? Potentially. And we may partner with somebody to do the MSW side and just have the transfer station on the same site and work with them. We might do it ourselves, but that's a whole nother concept that we'd have to work through, and how much volume and how much is dry commercial waste, because we really don't want to sort through wet residential and restaurant waste and stuff like that. It would just be dry commercial waste, which is all we do in Conyers. We don't sort through any of that other. If it's wet, it's really not recoverable and reusable if it's wet.
Well, as usual, I got a list here, so I'll start running down them. And you've touched on a lot of them. Y'all don't do municipal solid waste at all, except in that one facility you were talking about.
Right.
So that's not really an option for us, it doesn't sound like. But facility that you're talking about, a MRF, I assume, is what we're talking about. How much acreage would you need? You may have answered that, but
The smallest acreage that we have, I think, is 12 acres. We'd need at least 12 to 15, and the more acreage, the better, for traffic flow and staging trailers and material and things like that. So the more acreage, the better. And if you talk about rail, you got to have even more room for traffic patterns around the rail. So, layout becomes pretty important.
okay. I want to make sure I've got a good idea of what y'all do take in the way of recyclables. Metals, tin cans, aluminum cans, y'all take both of those?
Correct.
I assume, well, I don't know, what about construction waste, like these metal roofs, pieces of aluminum roofing, that kind of thing, siding, metal?
That borders on, C&D waste, and the equipment that we would have really it doesn't handle that kind of material. It's really the residential containers. So whether it's steel, aluminum, plastic, glass, containers, and then paper is really the composition of single stream.
Okay, no electronics in, no tires. I'm trying to get a gauntlet of what you don't do. Maybe that would have been the best way to ask this.
Yeah, we could do those things, but that's not really, when you're talking about a residential MRF and a baling plant, that's really not in the stream that fits that type of facility.
Okay, what about cloths and textiles? No, okay. In the partnership that you envision, are you talking about a shared building that we would pay for, y'all would pay for, or would y'all pay for all of it, us provide the land, or and then a partnership that way, a percentage wise, or how do y'all envision a plan coming together?
It really all depends. We could do it all, or we could do part of it, depending on how much the county wants to contribute. And, host fees and rebates and things like that are all dependent on what our upfront costs are, quite honestly. We have to pay off that investment. So, the less upfront money we have to spend, the better revenue stream, for the length of time it's going to be. So it's kind of a math problem.
Well, maybe this is just me, and from what I've seen and the different people we've talked to, y'all are very reputable. You're definitely somebody that we'd want to work with as far as taking care of our recyclables. At least, I'm very interested in, if you didn't get them on the front end, you'd probably get them on the back end some other way, because these other companies that we've been talking to, they also deal with you. It's not like we're all exclusive. We go with you and we go with nobody else. But, you're only going to be a part of our solution. We've got to take care of tires. We've got to take care of municipal solid waste. We've got to find a way to landfill what we can't recycle or reuse. Just goes on and on. Food waste is a big concern. Can we compost? Y'all don't do that. But, there are a lot of things that you do and you do right. And so I think, keeping y'all there to look at, if we start breaking this down and we're going to have X company do this and why a company do that. You know, y'all definitely, in my mind, would be somebody I'd want to be dealing with, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You look like you got some questions. You look like you got some questions.
Got one. I'm just curious about something. It's not really nothing to do with us, but what exactly is agricultural distribution? What is that?
So in Florida and in California, we actually make boxes and we take it to the field. And Pratt takes it to the field so that the pickers can put it right in the box. And then we have our own internal fleet that then distributes it out. So.
And my second question is, our solid waste director sends trash to Nashville recyclables, and if it's contaminated, it's sent back or we're charged. Can't remember. You might want to ask him that. But what happens if we send you a contaminated?
Well, it really depends on what it means by contaminated. If it's just pure garbage, yeah, we need to do something else with it.
Pizza in a pizza box.
Pizza in a pizza box? As long as it's not a truckload of pizza boxes with pizza in it, it's no big deal.
I think that's the amount of contamination and what is the contamination.
Right.
Look, if we're honest with each other, every MRF's going to have a certain amount of contamination coming in the door. It's no way of getting around that. Mac had mentioned earlier when we come in, education. Definitely education's a key player in that, and it can help it, but it'll never prevent it. We're always going to deal with contamination. So, and I feel we deal with it pretty well.
We do?
Yep.
All right, let me go back. So Pratt's bread and butter, what turns the lights on, keeps you guys running, is cranking out corrugated sheet, right?
Right.
And you say it's 100% recyclable.
100%.
So you need our boxes. You need our corrugated.
Mixed paper.
And mixed paper.
Magazine.
But what really, help me make sure I'm walking through this right. What you really don't need, but are willing to take on, is the plastics, the glass, the metal, the recyclables. Well, do you need it just for resale, or, I mean, what makes you different from the 2 or 3 other folks we're talking to that also say, hey, we'd like your glass and your plastics, and because you really just want the board to make boxes. So to me, the other stuff is a distraction for you. So help me, tell me why it's not a distraction.
No, it's not a distraction because the value of that product helps offset some of our cost of processing for the paper.
Okay.
And you know what makes us different? I don't think any of the other companies that you're talking to are an end consumer of anything.
Yeah, they're a middleman. They just
Right.
want to resell it somewhere.
So, you know, the value of aluminum and the value of PET bottles and HD bottles is a lot higher than the value of paper. And so that helps when we sell it, it helps offset that processing cost, that overhead cost.
All right. So it really is a bottom line. It's on your spreadsheet somewhere. It's a bottom line thing. Okay.
I do have another question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, say again, Robert.
I do have another question for him, if it's all right.
Go ahead, Robert.
Outside county trash, you know, and the mayor kind of touched on that there, but if we decided to go with you and you had a facility and we could ramp it up by bringing in, say, Metro's trash, what are we talking about as far as the counties? How would we benefit from allowing outside county trash to come into your facility in a monetary way?
Typically and historically, we have what's called a host fee. So any tons that come in from any place other than Rutherford County controlled tons, you get a host fee for enabling that transaction. So in the more volume we can get in, the the better deal you're going to get. So the revenue comes from a host fee. That every truck that comes across the scale, for every ton, the county will get get paid for that.
Any idea how much per ton we're talking about?
It varies widely based on, again, the upfront cost and how many tons we're talking. So it could be
35, 45.
be anywhere from 50 cents to $4 a ton. It really all depends on how much money invested that we have to recoup and what the market is, how many tons can we get in, what kind of a processing deal do we have with those tons, so, we have to figure that out after we figure out, what's it cost to put all the equipment in, the land, the building, all of that.
Would we, as a host county, have the power to say, hey, we don't want trash from this particular entity, for whatever reason?
If that's what you want to do, that's fine,
Kurt, I think too, Mac may be able to answer this better than I can about surrounding counties around Rutherford County, but if we're only taking commercial or source separated, the amount of trash or waste, so to say, would be minimal, basically almost zero. So as far as landfillable waste, there would be no added waste. It really wouldn't.
That was part of my concern. Other concern I've got is unless it's coming in on rail, and even that poses its own problems. I mean, we've got upkeep of our roads to worry about. We have fixed cost, and we start allowing more truck traffic on certain areas. Congestion, backup, whether we're going to have to widen roads, we're going to have to upkeep them. So that's why I'm trying to ask these questions.
I drove by the Singer Road site after I left last time, and I think I know what you're talking about. So, increased traffic is a concern because you have inbound and then you have outbound. Anything that doesn't go outbound by rail, we probably wouldn't bring in much by rail. It would be mostly outbound.
Kurt, get a little closer to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're still going to have increased traffic coming to that site instead of driving into Nashville.
Go ahead, Mary. Kurt, I want to drill down a little bit on your cost proposal from your first presentation about transportation services. It says Pratt Recycling can provide transportation services for recyclables from Rutherford County convenience centers to Pratt's Recycling Transfer Station, or the MRF. So my question will go to Mac first, and then let me come back to you. Mac, how many trucks do you use per day picking up our recyclables and taking them to Laverne, Smyrna, Nashville?
We have, we have one dedicated recycle truck, and it's a front loader truck that runs the school systems. The other roll-off trucks that run the convenience centers, none of them are dedicated to recycle only. They pick up a recycle load, go dump it, bring the box back, and then get a load of trash and go to the landfill. Roughly 30% of our hauls are recycle hauls.
Oh, okay, so it says in your transportation, Kurt, services, Pratt can provide transportation services. So either you'll buy the trucks, and then it says once the location of the station or the MRF is confirmed, transportation distances can be determined for each site, and fees for transportation can be negotiated with Rutherford County. So either you can buy the trucks and go to Eagleville and pick them up in Laverne and pick them up, or we can provide those trucks, right?
Right.
Okay. So we can go by and pick up our own recyclables at our convenience centers and bring them to you? Okay.
And we run roll-offs in Nashville now.
Yes, currently run 2 in Nashville and a flatbed. We were running FEL in the.
Okay, slide it back over and talk into Mike.
Sorry about that. Yeah, 2 roll-off trucks in Nashville, 1 flatbed, pull van trailers also with a road tractor, and we were running front-end loaders in Nashville, but we discontinued front-end loaders. But of course, we still run front-end loaders in other areas.
Yeah, we run, in the southeast, we run 53 front-end loader routes every day. So it's primarily in Georgia, North and South Carolina. But we could put a front-end load truck up here if need be.
And I'm trying to figure out how I want to phrase this, but COVID really kicked in hard, I guess, March of 2020. We saw a shift in our sales tax through purchases through Amazon and other QVC, those other programs. As far as tonnage of the recyclable cardboard, how did that change from March of 2020 to August of 2021? As far as what you did or what you collected, Mac, this may include you, what was collected prior to March of 20 and now what's being collected since through August of 2021. Does that make sense?
Sure. So before COVID hit, there was a large supply from retail in commercial. When businesses started to shut down and there was the quarantine at home type stuff, we saw a very large spike increase in online retail sales. So those boxes ending up at the residential houses. And so, the residential single stream volume started to go up. As businesses started to come back, it shifted back a little bit, but we sell boxes to Amazon. Our box orders to Amazon are through the roof. And, so there's a lot of boxes ending up at the households. And so if they have recycle bins and it's being collected, it's getting collected, or they take it to the convenience centers and drop it off. If they don't, or if your bins at the convenience center gets full because of the increased volume, it ends up in the trash. So anything we can do to recover those boxes from the residents, because I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of cardboard box loss in recovery.
But what kind of tonnage or percentage of increase did you have from pre-COVID to COVID? I would think that it would be an incredible increase in tonnage in recyclable cardboard coming back to you prior to what you collected in March of 2020.
Yes and no. So yes, there's a lot more volume coming to the households, but those who don't have recycling, it's not getting recovered. It's ending up in the trash because that's the only service they have. Or the convenience centers are the OCC bin gets full, where's it going to go? And so there was a significant loss of tonnage being recovered from residences. The other thing is, let's say you have a 65-gallon curbside cart for recycling. Well, you put 2 boxes in there and it's full. So I don't know about any of you, but yeah, I get 10 boxes a day sometimes from Amazon, so the other thing is the composition of single stream is changing. So 2 year and a half ago, you probably know these numbers better than I do, OCC was about 12% of the composition of single stream from households. Today it's in the 30s, 24, 26, up to 30. So the percentage of what's in that bin, as OCC, it keeps going up. Now, the problem is the container isn't big enough to hold all of that. So the overflow all goes to trash, all goes to landfill.
Mac?
Another thing to go along with that, Commissioner Blair, is a compactor full of trash will weigh somewhere between 10 and 13 tons. The same compactor full of cardboard, if you packed it really well, will get a little over 6 tons. But you're looking at roughly the same amount of volume. So the cardboard's going to be a lot lighter than the trash. So our volumes have increased as far as tonnage on both sides. But with the paper and the cardboard increase versus the trash increase, the way the tonnage works out, it's not a fair comparison.
So I recycle, I pay extra $25, $30 a month or whatever, and cardboard recycling and plastic and aluminum, and I think it's waste management, or it winds up going to waste management. So my question is, who talks to all the private companies that are doing curbside pickup, the Republics, the waste managements that ultimately get the cardboard that you want, or the recyclables? Is Team Pratt going out and trying to talk to those private folks? Would that be the county's responsibility? Who tries to get those folks to divert where they're going now to the Pratt Recycle Center or the Pratt MRF to do that?
We would do the commercial, and even residential if it's a private hauler pickup.
You can look at there.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
And we would negotiate with them and try to convince them that the windshield time going to Nashville it's better to come here, and they could get one more route in a day, or whatever. That'd be up to us. What we would hope that the county would do is get all of the other municipalities around that you have relationships with, that much better relationships than we have today, at least, and get them to pool their tons to get them to the center. So if you can help with the public or the municipal,
Municipality.
we'll do all the private stuff. And we have a developer in Nashville, that's all she does today. All day, every day, that's all she does. Talks with haulers, Mari. Talks with haulers, talks with private businesses, and that's what she does. She's a sales rep.
Robert?
This may be a question for Mayor Ketron, but can we, as the county government, dictate that our waste goes only to a certain area, and same with the municipalities? I know you said a while ago they were on board with us, but if they and we can dictate, okay, this doesn't go out of county, it goes to this facility, can we do that, Mayor?
Talking about to the private pickup haulers?
Right.
Okay. The question from Robert was, do we have the power, does the county have the power to dictate to those private haulers that are picking up curbside to say, hey, this, whatever you're picking up has to go to Pratt, or has to go, or can they go to the open market and go in?
Nothing currently, no, sir. And we'd have to check with legal to see if we even had that authority. But currently, no. My opinion is it'd probably be unconstitutional because it's part of the Commerce Act, and you can.
I think his hope was if it's generated in the county, could it stay in the county?
Well, what I was getting at is basically how much we're going to generate. If we could dictate, hey, this doesn't go out of county, it's got to go through them to go out of county.
Yeah.
And the same thing with municipalities. That'd be a good question for legal, I agree.
Yeah. Mac?
I think, though, all of the private haulers, look, they have a P&L they have to answer to also. And windshield time is a huge cost And we trade tons all the time with other recyclers. You know, when we run our front-end loader trucks in the Carolinas, all of that tonnage does not come to our facilities because it doesn't make sense to do that. So we'll take it to a waste management recycling plant or an independent recycling plant, and in turn, they bring us some other tons to our plants. So it's it's all about economics and cost, and windshield time is a huge part of that. If you talk to any hauler, that's a big metric for them.
Mac?
Got several private haulers that are actually picking up commercial cardboard and paper here in the county, and just like what Kurt said, they're going to try to dump it the closest place. You know, so if there's a facility that they can get in and out of, and they've already dealing with them in other locations, then that tonnage is going to, most of which will stay here, not all of it. And then you're going to have some special commodity that's going to be a little more valuable. The customer has a really good quality product that he's getting rid of, and it's very, very clean. They're going to pay a little extra because of it. Well, that might leave the county if that's going to somebody special, but there's not very many of those out there.
If you look at somebody running a truck, if their revenue comes from every tip. So if they can get 5 more tips a day because or 20 more tips a day because they're dropping, the truck's full, they get rid of it close and they can go out and hit 20 more cans, they're gonna do it every day.
Robert, to help you a little bit with your question, if the county put out to bid for the service and hired a private contractor, then you could tell that contractor you will dispose of that at this location. But if it's just private entity doing it on their own, no, the county doesn't have any control over where they take it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you answer a lot of questions, so answer me. And according to the last proposal you mentioned here, you prefer the location for Florence and or Singer property. And also you answer Mr. Commissioner P, you said you need about 12 acres. Is it Florence and or Singer to have enough property for you can build? And how long would it take to build if everything go well?
So I think that property is 20 acres, I think.
20 acres,
Yeah.
that's
So
correct.
plenty big enough. It would let us be very flexible in where we put the site, traffic flow patterns and all that gives us a lot of flexibility. And the availability of rail is a really nice add. So you asked about the timing. Building is taking a little bit longer today than it would have 2 years ago. But, I'm guessing within 24 months we could get something up and operational. And then equipment, new equipment today is 18 to 20 months out. So if you order it today, their backlog is so big that they can't deliver it any sooner. So, supply chain's pretty clogged up these days.
So if Republic says they've got 6 years left of airspace, that's 2 years subtracted off that, so we only have 4.
We will try everything we can to get it done sooner, but I can't commit to anything, right now.
Sure. Yes, sir.
A lot of it depends on site work, how much site work needs to be done, infrastructure, So
If you want the rail, that'd be in addition to. And CSX to respond in 5 years might be difficult.
It might be 5 years.
That's right. Because they're planning on bringing Amtrak to Atlanta. Coming
that's
through
right.
here.
I heard that.
Yeah, got a meeting this week on it.
Bill?
Yes, thanks, Chairman. Your proposal previously delivered to us, you list your Conyers, your Atlanta, Georgia, Denton, Texas, Columbus, Georgia, Duncan, South Carolina facilities.
And Fayetteville are all single stream.
You mentioned all of those. They're single stream MRFs.
Correct.
And they're 90,000 square feet down to 31,000 square feet. There's the size of the structures. Familiar with demographics, do any of those regions or counties or cities, are any of those close to your awareness of Rutherford and Murfreesboro? Rutherford County has in excess of 300,000 people. The city is pushing 200,000. Are any of these other locations similar in size?
As far as demographics go, we base the size of the facility on the actual number of tons that we think we're going to need to process. So I'll use Conyers as an example. The city of Conyers is 3,500 households. It's not big at all. The county that it's in, Rockdale County, is not very big either. But we get tons from Gwinnett County, which is the largest county in Atlanta. We get it from the city of Atlanta. So it's really about the number of tons that we're going to need to process there, not really, it doesn't always one-to-one match up with demographics.
Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Okay.
The demographics of the greater region affect it dramatically.
Correct,
So
yes.
we have a demographic of Davidson County on our border, which is a percentage of Atlanta. Granted, Atlanta's bigger and the multi-county area is larger. I guess Denton has DFW or Dallas-Fort Worth in their vicinity.
Denton's too far away, really.
Not quite
From DF. So
Dallas-Fort Worth.
it's a
but-
very small, it's a 31,000 square foot facility.
Yeah, so we get some tons in from some private haulers, where, again, it's closer to bring it to us than their MRF. But again, it's all about how many tons do we need to process there? And the tonnage that we need to process there is not nearly as much as Conyers or Duncan, South Carolina, for that matter.
So we have a limited number of tons, and then you can scale to the number of tons based on the proximity to Conyers or Kentucky, so there's a lot of factors that go into it, I'm hearing.
Correct, yeah. So what we would do is we would build a building big enough to handle the number of tons that we think we're going to be able to get, and then we'll scale the equipment up as we get those tons coming in. Does that make sense? Inside that building?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just the single stream old cardboard and 50 tons a week. It's a distressing number to look at on its surface. We look too small for you. At this 2,600 tons per year, we're too small. But like the mayor said, that's simply just our convenience center.
Right. Correct.
At what point would we do a scientific analysis to acquire a realistic expectation of tonnage? What would you need from us to secure that report, or to pay a consultant? Or in your experience in these other regions, how do you access data to know how many tons you can expect?
Well, I think, and again, you might have more insight into this, I think the collection piece of the recyclables in Murfreesboro and in Rutherford County, the infrastructure isn't there yet. If we can figure out the collection piece of it, then we have national averages for per household, how many pounds they produce a month, and we can do all those calculations of what might be available. Commercially, I'd feel comfortable to say we could get 1,000 tons a month, like quick, of commercial OCC.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
He's a lot more familiar with the area.
No, I've talked to Kurt quite a bit about it, and folks further up at Pratt than Kurt, that I know the tons are here. As I stated, whenever we first got started on the meeting, I was born and raised here and know the area very well, and I know tons are here. As Mac stated, the education from the time I was in school up till now is probably less in Middle Tennessee than most other areas. You know, that it is what it is, even though I hate to say that in the business that I'm in, but it is. I think we do very well in Denton, Texas, teaming up with the city of Denton with an educational room in the building that the MRF is in. So the MRF operation, how it works, what it does is painted on the wall. There's also cameras at each piece of equipment showing the equipment in action as it's separating, with a window that looks out to the plant. So we bring school children in, people of all ages, but a lot of schools come through and go through a tour, even though they don't have to get out on the floor, to see how it works, what it does. The city hosts, they do a big bicycle ride. One of the stops is the MRF there, and we'll give out drinks and whatever else, but it's another thing just to get the people involved. The North Dallas College, they hold a competition of who can create the best outfit out of recycled material, and you know, who can do that. So a lot of things to do education and to get folks to buy in and get to talking about recycling. And I think that's what's been laxed in the area for a long time. And again, I'm from here, so I'm part of that. But I'd love to see it change, and I think it can change. So, that's, you know, and Mac, you may know the number. I don't. But the percentage of material that's possibly recyclable that's hitting the landfill today is on up there probably. I mean, it is. Whether that's due to it's not being separated at the household or whatever is creating that, it's quite a large number. So, you know, to go back to Mr. Catron, is a lot of material can be pulled out of the landfill. I firmly believe that.
That's an educated answer. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Well, so your vision, Chairman asked earlier, so what is your vision is to build a facility, a shell large enough to expand into, and start with single stream, advertise for more single stream, put your sales force on the local industries, and windshield time, we know they'll come. If any of us in business have a choice of 50 miles or 25, we're going to do 25. Also, you're going to have an education piece. So what would you, so I'm back to part of my original question, what would you need next? Where would we go to ascertain a more defined answer to my previous question? Where's the tons? How do we educate? How much cost? What's a good next step? I think y'all are one of the better partners, in my opinion. Y'all are a proven model. You've got, we ask where, how much, what's the history, you've got answers. So I think y'all are a great potential partner. What would be your suggestion on next steps? Is that too broad of a question?
I think if we could start looking at, you know, the potential property, you know, do some site visits, figure out what kind of site work needs to be done, what those costs are, and start putting together what our upfront costs are. Then at the same time, you know, we'll be talking to our partners. We don't want to, you know, advertise that we're going to do something if, you know, because may or may not, right? So if we can figure out what our upfront costs are, I think Robert and Mari could put together kind of expected tonnages, you know, what's being collected here. We actually have some tons that we pull out of this area that we take to our Nashville plant that we would process here. So we know what those numbers are. So there's, as Robert said, I think we know the tons are there. To quantify those, it's going to be a little tough to go to, Waste Management and say, hey guys, if you're running front-end loader routes in this area, how many routes are you running, how many tons you got, until we have the facility. We really can't have those discussions. So, but I think if we can work on what's it going to cost us to get this facility in and operational and running, I think we can estimate how many tons we can get. I think and it'll be pretty close.
Somewhat open-ended question, but would you be willing to invest that time, or would you be willing to invest in some local engineering consultations to start, have an engineer and a surveyor look at a site, give you a little feedback? Are y'all
Absolutely, yeah.
Investing time, money, and talent?
Yes.
Thank you. I think Steve had.
Along that line, does this deal only work if we are or if it's a P3 and we are a partner on the land, or?
I think it's a good step forward to make it happen.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And I think it's in a great location. It's a contribution from your side to make it work. I mean, I think that's
Okay.
If we're all going to have a little skin in the game.
Sure. Steve?
What do you actually do at your facility in Nashville?
We have a baler and a shredder, and we bring in commercial stuff. So we bring in front-end loader, OCC cardboard, we get printer, trim, we shred material. He knows all about it.
Yeah. So office paper, mixed paper, magazines. Matter of fact, Mac, y'all have come to the facility several times. So it's not just us bringing our own material in there. We have outside customers bring material to us. And currently, I think I can give overall number of tonnage we run through there. Yeah. So currently we're running anywhere from 1,600 to 2,100 tons a month through the plant, which is good for that plant. That plant's maxed out. So
that plant's probably the smallest square footage plant we have.
Yes, right? Yes, 25,000 square foot, very small.
And we're running a lot of tons.
Big tons.
For that.
Big tons.
Is it under roof?
Do you own that location? Are you partners with someone else on this, or how does that operate?
The lease.
It's a lease, just a commercial lease.
So you don't own the property?
No. Not on the property.
You own the building?
No.
Is it?
We lease the building.
Is there room there to expand? So you're as big as you can get there. Do you have any type of relationship with any other single county like we're proposing here tonight to do for us, anywhere else?
City of Denton and the City of Columbus, Georgia, both.
What type of relationship do you have with them? Are you partners, or how do you work with those two?
Yeah, we're partners with them. In Denton, we leased the property from them, and we built the building and put the equipment in. In the City of Columbus, they built the building, they own the property, we put the equipment in, and marked the materials. So it's very similar, but could be different. And what we have any place else may or may not be what we end up doing here. So we're very flexible. We're very open to, figuring out the best way to do it.
Has anybody ever done a study to get some kind of rough idea? I know we've heard here that average person, Mac, does a ton of trash a year? Does nobody have any idea of how many pounds of cardboard a person will do in a year's time?
We have some statistics on single stream, if they have curbside collection, yes, how much a household will generate. And I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, but we have them. They're put out by the EPA, I believe.
Thank you.
So what Steve didn't ask was, and what the mayor just said to me was, if you don't own the property or the building in Nashville and you've outgrown it, why wouldn't you just move it to Murfreesboro in our new big plush facility?
Well, because
Is it a windshield time issue?
Some of the material comes.
So it's an integral part of your scheme?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'd rather have two facilities than one. Again, it's about how do we get the material in, turn the truck out, get another one. So if we had both facilities, we could increase that volume.
Yeah. So you got a north and south, okay.
Right.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if the cities in Rutherford County say they're in, and as a whole county, right next door to this tract of property, right across the road, is the cities. I don't know how many acres they have. Mac, you have any idea how many acres they have?
I think it's 25.
They've got 25 right across the road, in which they have a large mulching process for the city of Murfreesboro. So between the two, there might be an opportunity.
And you don't need rail?
Like to have rail.
Okay.
I would prefer to have rail, yes. Again, it just gives us more options to get the material to our paper mills, wherever we need it.
Kentucky now.
Kentucky, it's going to be a monster. So,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, what are you referencing with the other cities? Do they handle single stream recycling?
No, they do not. Of course, they're doing curbside. They're not doing curbside recycling. They're just doing curbside. They tried curbside recycling, if you recall, one time.
How could they help? What would be their contribution? Smyrna, Laverne, Murfreesboro.
Well, Murfreesboro has that track right across the road where they're doing the mulching facility from this track that we're talking with them about. And if the city were to come in to this agreement as well, sit down and see if you could negotiate ways of 50 some odd acres to incorporate, what I'm looking at is the bigger picture, to incorporate, because it's such a centralized location between 840 and I-24, north, south, east, and west, plus access to rail. It would be kind of a mega area to bring all this in.
I thought you were alluding to their material.
No, sir.
They don't have material.
No, just, I think the goal would be if we can, in this whole area, and bring in as much recyclables as possible and feed that to you, be it cardboard or plastic or anything else, and to reduce the waste stream going to Middle Point, in my opinion. If we could reduce 35-40% of that waste stream going to the landfill, then I think that negates their request to expand their footprint.
and again, I don't know the history, but if they had curbside single-stream recycling at one time, closest place is Nashville to take it. So, you're running one truck at a time up to Nashville. If the site was here, it'd probably be a lot more economical for them to.
Yeah, I think it's a first step. It was done a number of years ago. Recycling was hot back in the 90s, and everybody tried it, and nobody really got into it. But if we get serious about this, and we start, once, and they're already paying, the city is already charging on their utility bills to handle the waste stream. I think all that could be combined in one, and then we bring in Smyrna and Laverne as well. So I'm just thinking outside the box how all this could come together in one location.
Well, another thing too, Mr. Mayor, we were talking about bringing in outside counties possibly. And traffic was brought up, looked at that location on Singer Road is right off of 840 on the Murfreesboro Road, 4-lane to 4-lane.
Yeah, those
across
are
the railroad
all
tracks.
state routes.
Right. So Jefferson Pike will be relieved of a lot of traffic, so, or could be. So it'd be very helpful.
Right.
Mr. Dodd brought up something that if you're not come through town early in the morning, most of the businesses around the square don't have any place to put their garbage. They either put their garbage in a can on the outside along the square or along the alley in the back, if they have an alley, and they pile up their cardboard.
Bunch of cardboard.
There's one truck that goes through and picks that up, and it does not recycle. So there's a lot of recycle possibilities right here in downtown Murfreesboro area that's never been tapped into just because the equipment or the manpower or the labor or the will to do so has not been done.
Or the transportation with the product. There's never been a place to take it. That makes sense. So
that's been the big discussion of the city of Murfreesboro. The same truck that picks up the trash can pick up the cardboard. And it's the same type of truck. But to take it all the way to Nashville and empty it out and come back and get back on the route, it's just so much windshield time. It's something they're not willing to look at.
Bill?
all right, I'm taking advantage of everybody. I'm back to, is there a concept of a transfer station, MSW, where you're a quadrant and the wet stuff's a quadrant and the compost and the organics are quadrants at the transfer station? Has anybody done that? Have y'all participated in that? Where the obvious materials can be pushed to your MRF and the obvious landfill material are pushed to the other side of the site and so forth? Or is that just a pipe dream? We need to move on from that.
No, it could be done. We would prefer not to do all of it, but we would look at partnering with somebody to run those other operations, the compost and the transfer station. And, we could have it all on site. 20 acres, I think, would be plenty enough area to put multiple operations on. The MRF would take up probably most of it, just because of the size of the building. And what I would say is let's work together. If you have a potential vendor who's willing to do those operations, let's talk about putting it together on the same site.
That was attempted in Montgomery, Alabama, was it not?
Well, that was a dirty MRF, and where everything came in, and they tried to sort out. But all the residential, commercial, all of it stayed in MSW, and they tried to run it and recover the materials out, and that does not, in my opinion, does not work.
I'm glad you had an anecdote, because that's kind of what I'm conceiving. So, and I'll stop everybody's time on that. That's too conceptual. Thank you.
Any more questions? What taste in our mouth do you want to leave us with?
Look, I think these are great discussions, and I think there's a fantastic opportunity for us to partner together. I think at this point it's just a matter of, let's figure out the numbers and the economics and where do we go from here. And but look, we're excited about it, and I think it'd be a great long-term, many, many years partnership.
Phil, you talked about some next potential steps, which really lies on their desire to invest some time and effort and some cutthroat math on tonnage and site selection, things like that. Was there anything else that I wrote down? I think you said site work cost, upfront cost, and maybe a scope of projected tonnages, which you might have in your back hip pocket. What else was kind of a potential deliverable for a next step?
I had to stop there. The only next thought I had was what would be your first requests of us? And I wasn't prepared to go there, Mike. So I think that captures my initial thoughts.
All right. And you initially mentioned 12 to 15 acres. Revisit that one more time based on, because that was early in the conversation, based on where we are an hour later. Does that need to grow a little more? What?
Larger the plot, the more flexibility we have for building placement. I don't know if there's any wet areas. I don't know if there's any restrictions, easements, access. That's where the site.
There's no wetlands.
Survey.
There's no wetlands on the property. Got a couple of pear trees.
But these are all things we got to look at.
Yes,
whenever we take a raw piece of land, what site work needs to happen? Where does the building fit? And then we work around it. So the more room we have to work with, the easier that process becomes. Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna talk to the committee for a second. We other folks that we have chatted to up to this point, could in your mind, on the same piece of property, 25 so acres, could these folks be a next door neighbor to some of these folks? Maybe share the rail and each have their own processing. I mean, it's a small version of what you talked about. And, whether it's a C&D, whatever, let's brainstorm on that for a second.
The reason I kept going to the transfer station is that seems to be one of the first things that makes sense. And that's the simplest thing is MSW. So if that's too complicated, can y'all conceive of a way to have C&D be compatible with you? We have a C&D vendor that has a pretty good process. Or are they two different beasts?
Because we couldn't share processing equipment. No. But with 20 acres, I don't know how much room they would require. But, look, we'll be good neighbors.
Yeah, we're good neighbors. Yeah.
We're really good neighbors.
But there's not a compatibility.
Say again, Wayne?
That possibility, the city says they're in moving forward. We haven't broached them with that idea yet, but it seems to me like we're all after the same end game. And if they were willing to sit down with us and negotiate, okay, you're doing your mulching, what other room do you have? For everything located all right there, not really using our roads or using state roads. It's a perfect location.
So I guess the question is, a couple scenarios. If it was property that had the rail, had the spur, what is the absolute minimum amount of acreage you would have to maneuver? I mean, give us what you want, but then tell us what would be the absolute four corners, you got to have this. I'm not asking you to give it now. I want you to be thinking about that.
Yeah, let me think about that, because again, it's all about where does the spur come in on the property, where would the building have to sit?
Okay. Well, it may be something you can't answer until we are farther down the road.
They would want to build 50,000 or 80,000. I mean, building size.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was 80. Just
80
to 90,000 square foot building. So,
Can I ask Mac a question? Mac or Steve, both of you are familiar with the site. From where you cross over the railroad track going to the city site, between where Dollar General is and come on down, are there to our location on the left-hand side, is there any other personal property, residence or anything?
On that triangle, We own the triangle, most of the triangle. The gas company is right there on Singer Road.
Right.
And then the city sold the little corner right across from their entrance. They asked us if we were interested, but it was so small, there's really nothing we could have done with that.
But it's sold, but there's nothing structure on that.
Correct. There's not a structure. Now, there is a sewer line that runs right through the middle of it.
Okay, but what I was thinking about, the possibility, I'm just thinking outside the box, okay, is that maybe our facility and our piece of property and the city's facility could be combined. We close that road, that county road, and combine it all into one. We've got 50 acres. What I'm getting at, other people that wanted to get back to Old Nashville Highway could go across Singer Road and get to the same location, instead of crossing right there at the Florence Convenience Center. That's what I'm saying. So it could be a possibility of combination of all that.
How many acres is it, Conyers? You got the processing facility for recycle. Along with it, you got the small transfer station, and then you have the paper mill. How many acres does that cover?
Yeah,
Microphone.
the whole,
Microphone, tell us.
I'm not sure exactly how many total acres that is. I think the MRF itself is 15 or 20. And then the paper mill is probably 35 to 40 or more. So it's, but it's tight. It's I don't know if you've been there. You got to drive around the back and come up to get to the front, and it's just, again, it's how do you place it based on the topography of the land and where, so we had to put that building where it went. We couldn't have put it anyplace else, so, and we had to work around, we have turnarounds and that little circle in the back. And, you got to think about retention pond size. As you start putting impervious surfaces out, you got to have stormwater runoff, and so how big does that need to be, and how much room is that going to take up? And so there's a lot of factors that go into developing a piece of property, and so
Normally, an odor is associated with the paper mill. I did not notice an odor in Conyers. So what's the difference?
The odor that you associate with a virgin paper mill are the chemicals that they use to break down the lignin, and it makes that rotten egg smell. It's like sulfur. And with us, look, it's water and paper. That's the only odor. It smells like a wet, wet paper.
Steve, do you have, Steve, do you have something? Anybody else? Guys, anything else you want to, closing remarks?
Oh, look, we look forward to it. Just keep talking and see if we can't put down to something. So perfect. We look forward to it.
Perfect.
Thanks for all the time.
Thank you, everybody.
Kurt, thank you very much. Gentlemen, thanks.
Thanks for the time.
All right, committee, we have how many? We have, at least I know, 2 left. Who else do we have left to interview? At least 2 more dates, right? Because we have Republic and
We got
Waste Management.
Republic and Waste Management, yes.
Those are the only 2 left? Okay.
As far as a callback.
Yeah, as far as callback. So, what's your pleasure? Who would you like to get first? Republic? Sounds good to me. When do you want to do it? As soon as possible?
Rachel, do you have a couple of dates out there that we can pick those from, and then we can contact them both, and whichever one can go?
See who fills the spot?
Or you can give one the opportunity and then later give the other one the opportunity, however you want to do it.
Yeah. What do you see as the opening dates coming up? Oh. Oh. Meetings. So yeah. And Craig, you're on redistricting, right? Yeah. Have you already got redistricting meetings in your calendar? Yes. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
September 14th,
Nothing left in August?
unless we do the 31st.
Okay. So, all right, go ahead and just shoot the dates out. August 31st.
August 31st is open. September 14th. September 20th. And
Well, we're gonna, whoever is available on the dates, we're gonna let option. Yeah, and then whoever can take the first one, take it, and then the next one will fall. So 14th, 20th.
and the 30th.
And then get into October.
Yes, then we go into October. We have October the 6th open. October the 18th, 19th, 21st, and that's all for October.
All right, so let's go back. August 31st. Anybody have a conflict with that? August 31st, is that open for you guys? Okay, let's box that in for now. August 31, are you available? That's a Tuesday. Wait a minute. Did you not tell me we had steering on August 31st? No, Monday. Okay. All right.
31st is definitely.
Yes, punch it in, but here's the thing, it's definite until Rachel says it's not, because we've got to get one of these two folks to commit to that date. So what about September 14? September 14th. Anybody not available? September 14th is open as well for you all? Okay, let's box that one in. Just for fun, let's look at the 20th. What about the 20th? Let's box that one in, Rachel. Okay. What about the 30th? Yeah, for now. I just want to see what's open for you with the group. All right, let's box in the 30th. All right, why don't you reach out to Waste Management and Republic and give them those 4 dates?
Okay.
And see whoever fills them the fastest.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then let this committee know.
Yes, sir.
We're only going to need 2.
Right.
Yeah, do you want me to repeat them? Okay. Okay. Hold on, I slammed my book. August 31, September 14, 20, 30 are potentials. Any other business? Motion to adjourn. All right, thank you all.